this is a 1974 MG Midget 1275cc, and this is actually a very nice car. Today, I'm going to be reviewing this MG Midget because I haven't done a car review in a while. I've been mainly doing restoration videos of cars. I haven't done a review in a while, so I thought I'd review my little Midget. So today I'm going to give you a review of my MG Midget, show you all the quirks and features, and then we'll take it for a short drive. First, a little history on the MG Midget. It's just very short. I mean, you can get videos with better history on these cars, but the MG Midget was basically a rebadged Austin Healey Sprite, and the MG Midget came out during the Mark II of the Healey Sprite. I think they came out about the same time. They were made in the same factory as the Healey Sprite. There was never a bug-eye Midget, so let's just get that out of the way. And the Midget lasted longer than the Healey Sprite, because the Healey Sprite was discontinued, I believe, 1970. But I'm not sure, I haven't looked it up. And because the Healey name expired, and they just called them Austin Sprites after that. But the MG Midget lasted, and they didn't get the Austin Sprites in the U.S. You got the Healey Sprites, but not the Austin Sprites. The Midget was made, after that, it was basically U.S. market and UK market car. That's what they focused on mainly. And in, I believe, 1975 or 76, they changed this from this chrome bumper and aluminum grille design to a ugly rubber bumper. It's not even rubber, it's something else. But they call them rubber bumpers. So, with that slight bit of history out of the way, time for the tour. And we're going to start with the door test. So the door on this car is actually very, very tiny. The whole car is tiny, but the door is very tiny. So here's your door, and it opened pretty well with the Triumph door handles. And the door doesn't have detents on it, so it's either closed or trying to close. But it does, it's a very nice feeling door. The hinge squeaks a little bit, but I can use some spray silicone and fix that right up. Let's do it to the left-hand side now. Okay, on the left-hand side of the MG Midget, let's open the door. Very nice. It did open very well, and again, the door has 0 detents. So it just kind of floats around, but this one isn't trying to close since we're like this. So this one is trying to open. But it's not going to open all the way because you got a nice leather strap there to keep it closed, to keep it from smashing into the bodywork here. So let's close that. We'll get on with the tour of the vehicle. And we're going to start the vehicle's tour with this body line. So, I don't know what this body line is for. It looks like, let me just back up here a little bit. It looks like a leftover thing from the Bug-Eye Sprites, because on the Bug-Eye Sprites, the whole nose lifted up. But on this car, when I show you the engine, it's only the hood portion of the front that opens up. So I'm going to guess that was probably a leftover design from the Healey Sprite. But it might be, this is structural to the car, this part, and then this part's the fender, which I could also believe. But my guess is probably both. This is probably a really cool design from the Bug-Eye Sprite that was left over from the 1950s, and they integrated it into the new model, and this is probably just the structural piece because it's a monocoque car. Body is part of the frame. So I'm going to guess that's probably structural. This is the fender, and this line was a throwback to the Bug-Eye Sprites. I don't know, you can discuss that in the comments below. I read all the comments of my videos. So you can discuss that in the comments below, what you think that is. But now, let's get to the engine of the car. The engine in a 74 Midget is a 1275cc BLA series engine, or the BMC A series engine, whatever you want to call it. It's the A series, which was the lowest one. It was the smallest engine BL made. There's the A series, and then the B series was used in the MGB. I'm not sure about the K series. I don't remember anything about the K series. But this has a 1275cc BMC A series 4-cylinder, inline 4. It gets pretty good fuel economy, as part of my little gas tank here, because the original gas tank is rotted out. And it is a very nice little engine. Now we're going to move inside the little Midget where we find a really nice interior, starting with these seats. Now, these seats are actually really nice leather seats. I don't know if they're leather or imitation leather, but they're really nice. And if you've ever sat in a W123 or 124 Mercedes, you know what these seats are like. They are really close. They smell just like W124 Mercedes seats. And if we sit in here, we have our instrument cluster with this switch, which is probably for heater. There are fan switch, our speedometer, oil pressure and coolant, water temperature, our fuel gauge, which doesn't work at the moment, and our speedometer, which also doesn't work at the moment. Oh, and the rev counter stopped working. Right here we have the little knob to reset the trip odometer, which I can't figure out how to get that to work. A fan lock, and you got your lights. You got parking lights, regular lights, and then you got your high beams. So I think that's pretty cool. Down here you have your 4-speed manual transmission, like you got in all midgets. Down there you have your bonnet release. It's got a big B on it. This is an aftermarket choke I hooked up so I can start the car in the morning. There's your dome light, your little speaker, I believe, housing. I believe there's a speaker back there, and your radio. There, I believe, is a cigarette lighter, and there's something that says fasten belts. This thing does not have the bottom portion of the seat belt, so I've disconnected the wire. Right here, we have a day-night mirror, which I kind of like. There's night and there's day. This is actually a pretty clever design. Hold on, let me put the phone back on a tripod so I can show this to you. Now, to show you this really clever piece of design on this midget, I have to bring in a modern car, which I will do right now. And here's the modern car, a second generation Chrysler minivan, or the K-van. This one in particular is a 1994 Plymouth Voyager. So, to show you this, let's get inside the Voyager to the steering wheel. Okay, now both of these cars have a steering wheel lock, and that usually happens when you turn the key to the off position. And to lock the steering wheel, you turn the wheel. Now the key is still in the ignition. I have not taken the key out. It is still in the ignition, and your steering wheel is locked. So let's say your passenger's very mad at you. So what they do is they shut the car off, take the key, and throw it out the window. What you want to do, you want to turn to get on the side of the road. Steering wheel locks. Very bad situation. You can't steer the car, so you get into a huge accident. MG probably thought of this. So in the MG Midget, what you do is you put the key is locked right now. Let's turn the wheel. You can turn the wheel. Okay, the key is in the locked position. When you remove the key, that is when your steering wheel locks. It's very difficult to remove the key though, because you got this button here. You gotta unlock, you gotta press this button in quite firmly and hold the button down. Nobody is gonna do that. And if your driver sees the passenger do that, you're gonna whack the passenger's hand out of the way, instead of just turning the thing directly to the off position, taking the key and throwing it away so you can't turn the wheel. MG has thought of that. They put a very clever lock. So that is pretty good. And that's also good because I don't remove the key from the car anyway. So that's good because this car has no brakes at the moment. So it's good to shut the car off when I'm going down the hill. Now look at the size difference between these cars, actually. It's quite large. And what we're going to do is go to the back of this midget, where we find split bumpers and these big Sabrinas. It has those. It also has a very large trunk for you to keep a random wheel cover and your battery, which I put the battery in the trunk because I didn't have a battery that fit in the front, and the tonneau cover and the convertible boot and all that stuff you need for the accessories in this car. So let's continue the tour with the passenger side. Now the passenger side of the car, it's pretty bare. You got a big blank space, but under the blank space, you have a glove box. And in that glove box, you have this. unless your Midget doesn't have these. These cars are actually pretty old now. But this is the owner's manual, MG Midget Mark III. This is the original owner's manual to the car. And it tells you everything you need to know about this Midget. And it doesn't look very 70s because the pages aren't yellow and beige and everything. But you could tell this car is a 70s car because of the color. Look at the beige. But yeah, this will tell you everything you need to know. Everything there, body fittings, you got your mirrors. It's really good to actually have a car with mirrors. My Morris Minor does not have mirrors. It's only got the one on top of the windshield. Yeah. So, I think we got one more thing to show on this car, basically. And that's this area right here. The wheels and wheel arches. Now, on this car, on this Midget that I have, it is a round arch car. And if you are not into MGs, you don't know how big a deal this is. Because normally, the Midgets had square arches. They had square arches like a 49 Plymouth, for example, that kind of cover the wheel a little bit. This one is a 74, which means it has round arches. They only made the round arch cars from, I believe, 72 to 74, because it wasn't because it was weaker, actually, than the square arch wheels. And that's why, what I say is, you don't want to buy a rusty car anyway, but if you're going to get a 72 to 74 Midget, you gotta check for rust, because, especially in here, because it's weaker than the square arch cars. This is a round arch car, and it still has the original Michelin tires on it. But it's a round arch car, which means it's weaker. Luckily, this thing's pretty rust-free. It's only got a little rust in the trunk and tiny little bubbles in the passenger side floor, which I have to repair. But this thing is a relatively rust-free vehicle. Even the original tires are in good condition. And these rims are actually really cool looking. They're 13-inch wheels, which is crazy small. And look at my hand compared to that wheel. These are 13 inches. Normal cars, like my Morris Minor, have 14-inch, and normal cars now are huge with the wheels. They're like 15s. But yeah, this thing's got a 13-inch rim with this really cool design. I like the steel wheels on these Midgets. I like the wire wheels, but I like the steel wheels more because they have more character. So, I believe it is time to take this little Midget for a spin. Okay, here we go. Taking the little Midge for a spin. Okay. So normally this thing would have a module or some electrical thing where if you have the car in gear and you turn the key on, it will not start unless you have the clutch pressed in. I disabled that because I think that's stupid. I pressed the clutch in anyway, but... Oh, and if you hear... It's a really good sounding engine. And it's also straight piped, so it's really loud. I'm sorry if the phone falls down. I have it resting on the tripod on the passenger's seat. And in the interior, it's better to tell this now, there is a lot of room. This thing is huge inside, which, judging by the outside dimensions, it's kind of like a Morris Minor. Small on the outside, huge in the inside. Your feet go on forever. The legroom in this car is infinite, man. This thing is so good to drive. I'm sorry if the camera is moving. Driving this right now, whoa, oh no. It handles like a sports car. Even when I'm doing 5 miles an hour, it handles like a sports car. I'm so sorry about the camera going everywhere. I have no control over that. But this thing handles like a sports car. It's very fast, actually, around these farm roads, because this is like a farmer's sports car. It's very good, so I think that's the end of the review. Oh, you can do a handbrake turn. Yeah, I didn't have the wheel turn. Thanks for watching.